Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Ruggiano Jr. I want to welcome everybody to Reformed Gangsters. And if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. And don't forget to check out my Patreon. I got a lot of good content on there. Membership start at $1. So for $1, come check out what I got. And if you like it, go from there. Um, Next week, April 22nd, I'll be up in New York. I'll be in the studio. I have two special guests that are going to be on Reformed Gangsters. I'll release their names at a later date, but it's going to be a big surprise, especially one of them was a big surprise to me when he reached out to me. So I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy our conversation. I'll also be doing a mob tour of Coney Island, some famous hits in Coney Island, Abe Rellis and Marizano and a couple of other hits that took place there. And it's a famous restaurant that's there, that's still there. That was a mob hangout where Carlo Gambino used to go to. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I think Wednesday afternoon, even though I'm not a Met fan, I'm going to go to Citi Field with some friends and see a Met game. The Mets are playing the Phillies. So if anybody's at Citi Field that day and wants to say hello to me, I'll be on. They could contact me on my social media. So I'll be in Citi Field probably. That's the way it's looking. So it's Easter weekend. Today's Good Friday. I took off from the gym today. I'm just gonna have a quiet day at home. I have to go to work this afternoon at the treatment center. I still work there 3 days a week. So I work at an intensive outpatient program, so I'm thinking about Easter weekend, it's a time to, for new beginnings, but I think about, years ago, how the mob guys used to spend Easter and, even though none of them were really religious and went to church, but, I guess it was symbolic how Easter changed for me throughout the years. Like, when I was a little kid, of course, we all wanted Easter baskets and everything. And my grandmother would take me to church. My mother's mother used to take me to church. My father's mother was where we ate every Easter Sunday. And once a year for Easter Sunday, my grandmother, my father's mother, who was the original gangster, used to make homemade raviolis this big. Only once a year. And my cousins that are still alive still talk about grandma's raviolis. She only made them once a year, and she made special cakes once a year, like meat pies and Italian cheesecakes were a big Easter treat. Easter, they made special pastries and cakes, just like Christmas. They made special. And my grandmother was a great cook. She was a great baker. And she used to sit on her bed with a piece of wood and a rolling pin, and she used to roll the dough for the raviolis, and we used to sit with her and big, delicious raviolis. So, so I used to like Easter. After she passed away, we would go by my aunt's houses, and it was the same celebration, just without the raviolis, of course. And so it was fun. Easter was a fun time. Wasn't really religious as I got older. When I became a teenager and I started hanging out with my old man, just like Christmas Eve, on Easter weekend, on Saturday, we would go to the Ravenite. I started doing that when I was like 16 or 17, when I actually started going to the Ravenite. And it was, it was packed. It was crowded in the 70s, the Ravenite. The day before Easter, we would always go to the Ravenite, just like we did on Christmas Eve. And everybody would be there, happy Easter, kissing each other. But nobody gave a shit about the resurrection of Christ. It was just, it was just like a tradition and symbolic. And we would go to the Ravenite, and Neil would have like a buffet, like a spread of food, and we would drink and talk and laugh, and they would be playing pinochle in the back. Neil and my old man and Tony Lee and everybody would play pinochle. They used to play for $50 numbers, which back then was numbers. Today's the lottery. So whoever lost, the winning team picked the number, and the losing team put $50 on it. So if they hit the number, they would have won $25,000, and that's what they played for. They played for $50 numbers, no money exchanging hands, but they played for numbers. And that was on the day before Easter, but they did that all the time. So that was Easter Sunday weekend. how it changed throughout the years and throughout my life. This Easter, it's just me and my daughter. Um, Unfortunately, everybody passed away. So we're just going for dinner. I just made a reservation at a restaurant. We're going to on the water in Fort Lauderdale. We're going to sit outside nice on the water in a marina and have a nice Easter dinner, Italian restaurant. Just relaxing, taking it easy. So that's my Easter little story. I want to wish everybody a blessed Easter and a safe Easter. And let's see what else we got going on here. My cats, if you hear any noises in the back, it's because my kitten that I have that my daughter brought home is torturing my older cat. Anybody want a kitten? I got a beautiful kitten here that I'm looking to give away. Excuse me, if anybody wants a cat, I got one. His name's Sonny. Sonny Corleone Ruggiano. If you want him, come get him. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Someone wants to know, someone has a question about Joey, what's signing tabs? Checks, checks in discos, checks in restaurants. That's a tab is a check in a restaurant. A check is a tab in a restaurant. So that's what signing tabs means. I don't know what this means. In Pax Soprano episode, The Sopranos actor Anthony Corazza. Yeah, Anthony Corazza was a good friend of mine. He's one of the Corazza brothers. He was in a couple of episodes of The Sopranos. He was in The Bronx Tale. My little cat is torturing my big cat right now, and if I wasn't on the Zoom now, I would be screaming at him to leave her alone. So yeah, that's Anthony Corazza's, Nicky Corazza's kid brother was. He passed away. Let's see what else we got here. What percentage of Little Italy is Italian today? I don't even know if there's any Italian people living on Mulberry Street anymore. Maybe a very few old timers. But when I first started going to the Ravenite, it was all Italians over there. They're all gone now. This is from Eric. He's from Brooklyn. Did you know Joe Piney? Yeah, I knew Joe Piney. I met him a couple of times. I went to his, he had a place downtown. I went there a couple of times. We had some sit downs with him over things. I met him a couple of times when my old man was doing business with Tommy A. Tommy Agro was one of his guys. So yeah, I knew Joe Piney. He did a lot of time before I met him. He did a lot of time for heroin trafficking, but I met him when he got out. He was a good guy. This is from Gene. Well, they're gay mobsters. We all know about the boss from Jersey who inspired the gay mobster story on The Sopranos, but were there others? I'm sure there were. Nobody was openly gay. I never met a wise guy that was gay or that I assumed was gay. But the mob is homophobic. They are homophobic, so that they wouldn't be happy with a gay made member. But I never really met any out and out gay men that were made anyway. I mean, I met gay guys that weren't made, that were associates and all that made men did business with. But and gay like Matty the Horse and Eddie Dolls, they owned major gay clubs in Manhattan. I mean, Matty the Horse ran like you couldn't open up a gay club in Manhattan without his okay. He was a captain with the Genovese family. So did he have gay associates? Many of them. Was he gay? Definitely not. This is Yankees 29. Rumor on the streets was that Willie Boy was so tough when he was younger, he knocked out a future boxer. Yeah, Willie Boy was a tough guy. He was a killer. He was no joke. He was a confidential informant, as everybody knows. His code name was Wahoo, because he was part American Indian. Willie Boy Johnson. I don't know. I don't know if he was half Indian but he was definitely American Indian. That's where he got the code name from the government as Wahoo. This is from Maryland. Who did your tattoos? Well, it's a funny story about my first tattoo. I went with they were illegal back then in the like I think 1970. I got my first one. They were illegal in New York back then, so guys used to do them down in their basement. And my friend Sal went to get a tattoo of this guy in Howell Beach, and I went with him. And while I was there, I decided to get a tattoo, and I got a rose tattoo with mom and dad written in it. And I hid it for a while, and then my mother discovered it, and my father flipped out. My father went crazy. He hated tattoos. He told me, screaming at me, that I was an idiot. Tattoos were only big fingerprints, and look at him, he had no tattoos. And I got the tattoo. About 20 years later, and I never saw the tattoo guy after he gave me the tattoo. I mean, I never went back to his house. I never saw him in the neighborhood. About 20 years later, I was at a funeral, and a guy walked up to me, and I didn't recognize him. He had gray hair. He was a little heavy-set guy, and I didn't recognize him. And he says to me, "Do you have a rose tattoo on your right arm?" And I go, "Yeah, how do you know that?" He goes, "How do I know that? Because I'm the guy that put it there." I said, "If I would have known you were Fat Andy's son, I would have never gave you that tattoo." They were looking all over the neighborhood for who gave Fat Andy's son a tattoo. They wanted to kill me. I said, yeah, 20 years later. So that was a little funny. The other tattoos I got in jail, I got the other tattoos in school killed from this kid from Boston. I paid him a carton of Newports for each 2 cartons of Newports for 2 tattoos. And I got them when I was in school killed from this kid that was out of Boston. Him and his brother were there. So that's how I got my tattoos. Let's see what else we got here. That Dom story is my favorite. Is his name Dom DeSella or Dom DeSella? You know, they used to call him Dom DeSella. I don't really know his last name. It could have been DeSella. I'm not sure. But, you know, his nickname was Dom DeSella. So I don't know if he was a sailor. Maybe he was in the service when he was a kid in the war or whatever. Or it was a abbreviated last name. I'm not sure. But his nickname was Dom DeSella. Which mafia crew was the most ruthless? Well, I mean, in my day, it had to be the DeMeo crew, were probably the most ruthless, and Greg Scappa's crew. I mean, there was a lot of vicious crews, but I mean, you know, the Palmer killed everybody, so I would say that was probably one of the most vicious crews in my day. Here's another one. Did you ever sell some drugs after you got sober? No. No, I never really was a big drug seller. You know, I made a couple of moves here and there throughout my years. My brother had a major marijuana business. I mean, I would move some coke here and there if guys came to me, I would hook them up with other guys that were coke dealers. You know, I had a guy around me named Eddie. He was a coke dealer, and if guys came to me that wanted to buy any kind of weight in coke, I would bring them to Eddie, and I would, you know, make a piece. But I never really was a hands-on drug dealer. Bob, I think both your fathers loved you very much, but how do you reconcile that they got you into the life that will result in jail? You know, that's all they knew. You know, I guess you're talking about my father, Michael's father, you know, other guys' fathers. When I did an episode recently on, you know, wise guys' sons. You know, our fathers, that's all they knew. You know, they didn't know any better. They believed in that life. They thought it was the right life. They thought they were right and society was wrong. And did my father want me in that life? No, he didn't. You know, when I got kicked out of school at 16, he wasn't happy about it. But he didn't really know how to reprimand me, like I said many times. So, you know, I got into that life, and he taught me about it the best way he can. You know, unlike, you know, Patty Mac's son got himself killed because they killed Patty Mac, and then he wanted to get even, and he talked about it, and then he winded up getting killed. So, you know, that's a tragic story. Ruthless. How many captains were in a family at one time? Every family had a different number of captains. I guess the Gambino family and the Genovese family has the most number of captains because they have the most number of soldiers and the most number of members. But I don't really have a figure on each family how many captains they had. Some families had more captains than others because of the size of the family. And in other cities, some families had 2 captains. You know, in a city like Buffalo or a city like Cleveland, you know, in Philadelphia, you know, it all depended on the size of the family. John, Trump is destroying this country. No comment. I have a little story. I know even my manager doesn't even know this, but because I didn't talk about it. But I have an idea for a story about mob protocol, about rat moves and try snitching, what's considered a rat move, because there's a person out here now that has a podcast that says he's a good guy, but he's backing an administration that's putting everybody in jail. So we're going to talk about that, but that's at a later date. Yeah, that's at a later date. Is Eddie Dawes the Curtis? Yes, that's Eddie Dawes. Good man. Him and his brother Guido come from Manhattan. Good guys. Sharp. Well, Guido was a sharp guy. Eddie Dawes was Eddie Dawes was a character. He was more of a street guy. He was more on Fat Andy type guy, and Guido was like more on a racketeer type guy. You know, his brother Guido was very sharp dresser. Eddie was like a street guy. Eddie had a great personality. It's tragic what happened to his son Gregory. You know how his son got murdered in front of his house. And I don't know if his family is out there and they see any of my shows, but we were pretty close at one time. Anthony, what do you think of the new Costello Mafia movie that just came out and where De Niro plays? I haven't seen it. You know, I have a hard time with De Niro now over the way he behaves and how he talks. And he denied being Fat Andy's friend when that picture was posted in the Daily News, which he knows that's not true. I have a hard time supporting him now. I'll probably see the movie when it's on for free, but I'm not going to pay to see it. But I have spoke to people that have seen it, and they said it was pretty good. What I read about it, it's pretty historically accurate, but I don't know firsthand. I haven't seen it, but I will eventually see it. This is from Bobby. What's your opinion about John Gotti still being involved in the family business at his age after all the time? You know, like, listen, that's who they are. You know, somebody asked me, do I still think Gene's involved? 100%. I would bet my life on it. He's involved. He's never not going to be involved. That's who they are. My old man was home. He'd be in his 90s. He'd still be involved. Nicky's in his 80s. He's involved. They're never going to not be involved. Their ego is too big for that. They believe in it too much. They're gangsters in heart. They're never going to not be involved. My advice, my opinion, which they don't really give a shit about, but I'll say it anyway, is they should stay home with their grandkids because there's nothing out there. What do they want to be the boss of? What is the mob today? Why does anybody want to be in the mob today? What advantage is it? It's what advantage? What happened? We went blank there. So that's my opinion of that. There's another is asking, now that Sammy has joined Michael and become a Christian, do you have any plans to give your life to Christ, seeing that you are Christian values regarding all the work you do helping addicts? You know, I go to mass. I'm a practicing Catholic right now. I've gone to Christian churches. This church was Calvary, but I particularly still feel comfortable at a Catholic mass. That's where I go. I attend a church down here in Boca. I'm going there. Matter of fact, I'll be there Sunday morning, Easter morning. I would even go today at 3 o'clock to have a service for Good Friday, but unfortunately I have to be in work at 3 o'clock, so I can't go. But yeah, I still practice. I'm a practicing Catholic. So that's where I stand on all that. Any other questions out there?
I text you a couple.
No, I answered them all.
Yeah, okay. Hold on, James. Where's James? Go ahead, James.
Hey guys, good morning. Anthony, I got a date out in Queens next week. I'm wondering if you could recommend an Italian restaurant out there.
You got a date out in Queens?
Yeah, I'm wondering if you could recommend a good restaurant.
Yeah, you got to go to Don Pep's. Just go to Don Pep's. Right on Lefferts Boulevard off Conduit, right near Kennedy Airport. Don Pepe's.
All right, can't beat that recommendation. Thanks, man. Happy Easter, guys.
Yeah, same to you.
Anybody else? Any questions? All right, I guess you could wrap it up.
All right, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Reformed Gangsters. And don't forget, if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Don't forget, also check out my Patreon. I got a lot of good content. If you want to get involved this week in New York, April 22nd and 23rd, you can contact me at my email, Anthony Ruggiano Jr. at gmail.com. I'm going to have 2 surprise guests in the studio on Tuesday. Wednesday morning, I'll be in Coney Island doing a tour. And Wednesday afternoon, I'm 99% sure I'll be in City Field, but it will be on my social media. If you're in the game, we could meet and greet. So I'll be there at City Field watching the Phillies and the Mets. I don't know who I'm rooting for yet. I got to see what the line is on the game because I may make a little wager. And I'm not a big Met fan. I'm a diehard Yankee fan, but we'll see. Everybody have a great Easter. Stay blessed. And don't forget, Easter's about new beginnings. So if anybody's struggling out there with any kind of addictions or any kind of depression, Sunday is a day of resurrection. So, anybody could overcome anything if they have some faith and reach out for some help.